welcome to the Annotation Guide Part 1 for Romeo and Juliet. There will also be a Part 2 and a Part 3. There will find you some quotes thanks to Google image search and thanks to some people's tattoos. The first thing you need to do is get organised. Record these symbols on your title page. So this is any blank page you can find within the first 5 to 10 pages, say, of your novel. In this case, a play. So it could be where it has the title of the play, or just any blank piece of paper within it. If there's none, you might want to glue a piece of paper in and add these symbols. So your 4 themes are love, hate, fate, and youth. They're pretty straightforward. Love is about love, whether romantic or otherwise, but mostly focusing on romantic love. Hate is about the feud and the way that the characters hate each other because of this, and how it's manifested, as well as within Romeo and Juliet, the lovers themselves, and how their hate brews up into some interesting circumstances. The third one is fate. So you're deciding everything in the play, was it preordained? Was it meant to happen? Was it God's will? Was it some greater power controlling things? Or was it the actions of the characters within the play? So the fourth theme is youth. So you're thinking about, were the problems in the play caused by the young people and the way that they acted rashly, quickly, and in a young teenager way, or was it the elderly and the way that they didn't intervene in the correct way? The motifs are very easy because it's very poetic. Light and dark will come up numerous times. Suicide and death, as two sides of the same coin, will repeat. The feud is a obvious big part of the play and a big motif. Speed, haste, which is another word for hurrying, going quickly, and gender, the way that the sex of the characters impacts upon the way they react to things and what they are able and unable to do. Now, because it's Shakespeare and it's got a very poetic quality to it, I could have had a list of 100 plus things for the symbols, as they're things that just appear once or twice. So names are important, stars are important, poison, birds, and sex. Alright, so just for a quick little theme discussion before you start reading the play and getting too stuck into it, you'll need to be thinking as you read, or even before you read, do you think the play is more about love or more about hate? What is a more powerful force upon the characters, and what has the biggest impact? Is it their love, or is it their family's hate? One of the key questions of the text, which William Shakespeare leaves for the reader to decide, is whether the ultimate fate of the protagonists is caused by love or hate. So you decide. In regards to the other 2 themes, the discussion is fate or youth. So one of the key questions of the text, which Shakespeare leaves for you to decide, is whether the ultimate fate of the protagonist is caused by fate or youth. So could it have been avoided? If they made different decisions, would there have been a different outcome? And if so, would that have changed things? Would that have mattered? Just a quick practice task to get your annotation skills recalibrated. Below is 4 different quotes. You need to decide which ones are representative of hate and which ones are representative of love. So the first quote is, "My name, dear saint, is hateful to myself, because it is an enemy to thee. And the place death, considering who thou art, if any of my kingsmen find thee here." Alright, just a quick practice task to get your annotation skills calibrated. You need to decide from these 4 quotes which ones represent hate, or which parts, and which ones represent love, or which parts. So the first quote is, "My name, dear saint, is hateful to myself, because it is an enemy to thee." The second quote, "And the place death, considering who thou art, if any of my kinsmen find thee here." The third, "If they do see thee, they will murder thee." Fourth, "My life were better ended by their hate, than death prorogued, wanting of thy love." So these are all from the key balcony scene, and you should be able to decide which ones are love and which ones are hate. In case you were unsure, this is what I've annotated below. The majority of them are about hate, but also Romeo below contrasts it against the power and the strength of his love. Alright, what I'd like you to do again, now you've calibrated your annotation skills, go to these sections of the play and annotate those pages that you see there, and then compare them to the examples I've provided. So the scenes are the prologue, all 10 to 12 lines of it, Act 1, Scene 1, line 169 to 200, Act 1, Scene 1, line 198 to 226. Act 1, Scene 5, lines 118 to 145. Act 2, Scene 2, line 54 to 85. Act 2, Scene 6, from the beginning to the line 30. Act 3, Scene 1, line 95 onwards. So these should just be pages, so if you find that line and the ending line, then that should be one full page on your copy. If it's not, then try and do your best to follow along to those line numbers. Alright, so most importantly for the prologue, we have 3 little death symbols, 2 feud symbols, in fact 3, and 1 little star symbol. We've also got a number of annotations which you can copy along. So Ancient Grudge, New Mutiny, Parents' Strife, and Parents' Rage is representative of hate. Star-Crossed is fate, and Lovers is of course love, as is love below. If you've got something like this, you've done well. So here we get some extended analysis of love. Such is love's transgression. Love is a smoke made with the fume of a sigh. So here we get Shakespeare's analysis of love through the voice of Romeo, where he says, "Such is love's transgression. Love is a smoke made with the fume of sighs, being purged, a fire sparkling in lover's eyes, being vexed, a sea flourished, nourished with lover's tears." So for Act 1, Scene 1, line 198 to 226, we have a lot of hate. So Romeo is talking about Rosaline here, and he's talking about the way that she will not be hit by Cupid's arrow, which is a metaphor for her not giving out his love. Act 1, Scene 5, line 118 to 145, we have a bit of hate and a bit of love. The only son of your great enemy, and my only hate, that I must love a loathed enemy. So that's all about hate. You probably could have had love, that I must love, of course you could have highlighted for love. My only love sprung from my only hate. So again, that's a nice double quote, you could flexibly use that. And prodigious birth of love it is to me, for love. Okay, so Act 2, Scene 2, line 54 to 85, this is the one we went through as our example. In case you want to check, I've also added the symbol of the name and the rose. So this is where he's talking about a rose being another name later on, and the way that his name doesn't mean much, it's just letters on a page, or it's just spoken sound. So Act 2, Scene 6, from the beginning to line 30, we have this famous quote for youthful hastiness. These violent delights have violent ends, and in their triumph die, like fire and powder, which as they kiss, consume. Then too swift arrives as tardy as too slow, so we have the symbol of haste, and as they're referring to love, we have it highlighted for love. Act 3, Scene 1, line 95 onwards. As well as this delicious quote for hate, a plague on both your houses, we also have a number of references to gender and a reference to death. So if we see, "O sweet Juliet, thy beauty hath made me effeminate, and in my temper softened Valor's steel," he's saying that her beauty has made himself effeminate, meaning like a woman or womanish, so not as strong as he was before. And then it goes on, "This day's black fate on mull days doth depend. This but begins the woes others must end," which is him reaffirming his manly desire to kill people, essentially. So good luck annotating the rest of the play, and I hope this is giving you some sort of guidance, some sort of ideas. Go on to watch the second and the third video in the series, and that should give you some key quotes to note down.